This is Weirdly Enough, your regular podcast for strange stories and amazing facts, delivered straight to your favorite podcast directory and at weirdlyenough.com. Now, here are your hosts, Andy and Len.
Thank you very much indeed. You're tuned to Weirdly Enough with me, Andy Kane, and
Len Johnston.
hello, good to have you with us. Remember, you can find our website, weirdlyenough.com. Email us, podcast@weirdlyenough.com. We'd love to hear from you about anything we discuss in our podcast series. That would be really good. Podcast@weirdlyenough.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter as well. We're Weirdly Enough PC is our Twitter handle. So today, what are we going to be? We're going to be looking at lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming.
I don't know at all about what this is about. So is it about where you guide dreams or something, or you know you're dreaming?
You only think you don't know what it's about, but you actually do know what it's about. Because what it is, it's basically like if you've ever had a dream. I mean, I know I've had a dream where I've become aware that it's a dream.
Yes.
And I've actually slightly gone beyond that to not always, but sometimes done one or two things. If it's been very unpleasant,
yes,
you say to yourself, "It's a dream. I want to wake up," and then you wake up.
Yeah.
And what you can do is you can control the dream.
It can be almost like your own little film in your head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
I think I know. Yes, I think I know what this is. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, because it got me thinking about dreams. In fact, no, I'll do the technical stuff first, and then perhaps we can do a little free-form discussion.
Okay. Do you know anything about the history of it?
Yeah, well, I'll define it first. Basically, a lucid dream is a type of dream where the dreamer becomes aware that they're dreaming. And during a lucid dream, you may gain some amount of control over the narrative of the dream, the characters, what's happening, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Now, it was coined, the lucid dream term was coined by a Dutch author and psychiatrist called Frederik van Eeden in his 1913 article, A Study of Dreams.
Okay.
Through descriptions of dreamers being aware that they're dreaming. Though, basically, he coined it, but basically, throughout human history, people have known that this is a thing. There was a Chinese philosopher, I don't remember his name, but it's a famous one, and I always quote this when I'm trying to sound profound and philosophical to people. One night, the Chinese philosopher dreamt that he was a butterfly.
Yes.
And then he woke up, and he began kind of thinking about it, and he was thinking, well, hang on, how do I know that I'm a philosopher? I'm dreaming that I'm a butterfly. What if I'm actually a butterfly? That I'm dreaming that I'm a philosopher. How would you know?
Yes.
And this is kind of in the realm of lucid dreaming.
It goes back to yoga as well.
Yeah.
The practice of yoga, nidra, and the Tibetan Buddhist practice of dream yoga, which cultivate awareness of all these kind of dreams within the Buddhist culture.
It's actually a discipline kind of within that.
Yeah.
And there's some quite good quotes here. One was from Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, and he says, often when one is asleep, there is something in consciousness which declares that what then presents itself as but a dream. And Samuel Pepys actually references this in a diary entry from the 15th of August 1665. It's a bit of a red one maybe, but we'll do it anyway. And I said, I had my Lady Castleman in my arms, and I was admitted to use all the dalliance I desired with her, and then dreamt that this could not be awake, but that it was only a dream. So it's a bit red, but you know.
That old Pepys, eh?
Old Pepys, yeah, he's a bit of a character.
You know he buried a cheese?
Yeah, I was during the Great Fire of London, wasn't it?
He just bought a really nice cheese and he didn't want it to get destroyed. He didn't mind about his entire house getting destroyed.
Yeah.
So he went out to the garden, buried a cheese, and it was saved from the fire.
So he was able to kind of deck it up. Somebody wrapped it up.
Yes.
Etc.
But maybe the kind of melted cheese would be nice.
I hate melted cheese. Just I don't know, thing. I like cheese, but for some reason, I don't like the smell of melted cheese and the consistency of melted cheese.
What
it just
about
really
halloumi grilled?
It's like a thing. There's a very well known chain coffee shop that's all over the place, and I often they do quite nice little ham and cheese kind of sourdough kind of things.
Okay.
Basically like a posh ham and cheese sandwich. And I often go in there when I'm a bit peckish, and they always say, "Oh, do you want toast on it?" I have this kind of regular tussle with the barista because they're very insistent upon it getting toasted, and I'm like, "That's okay, mate. I'm good to go here," you know.
Okay.
But anyway, we're getting off topic here. In 2016, David Saunders and colleagues did a survey on 34 lucid dreaming studies that were taken from a period of 50 years, and it demonstrated that 55% of a sample of 24,000 plus people claimed to have experienced lucid dreams at least once or more in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Furthermore, for those that said they did experience lucid dreams, approximately 23 reported to experience them on a regular basis, as often as once a month or more.
Right.
In a 2004 study on lucid dream frequency and personality, there was a correlation between nightmare frequency and frequency of lucid dreaming. Some lucid dreamers also report that nightmares are a trigger for dream lucidity, because this is a thing that I know from my own experience. Whenever I was a child, I started to have lucid dreams where and they were always connected with kind of scary dreams.
Yeah.
Where you just suddenly realise, oh, this is just a dream, right? Okay, that's one positive thing. So, and then the next step beyond that was the ability to change what you were doing. Like, for example, if you're in a scary situation, you'd run away.
Yeah.
Or else you'd say, look, try and wake up, and then you wake up.
I have sometimes very, very strange dreams when I'm not quite asleep.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Where you're like just on the edge of sleep and your mind just has these like crazy kind of weird thoughts.
Well, that makes sense, because dreaming is not something you do in deep sleep.
Yeah.
Deep sleep is dreamless, whereas dreaming kind of comes at sort of slightly lighter levels of sleep, like, you know. So that does make sense. There's an Australian psychologist called Milan Kolek, and he's explored principles from therapy to people's lucid dreams to reduce the impact of nightmares and also treat depression and various other psychiatric problems. So he's actually using it as part of therapy, which is quite interesting.
It's also been used by the US Army to assist soldiers to recover from post-traumatic stress disorder, especially yogic sleep, which is like kind of going into a meditative state and then dreaming during that going to sleep stage, which is what I was talking about earlier. It
can actually be very beneficial by the sound of things, like, you know, and it can be used for kind of therapeutic things, and people think you can use it for life goals. For example, they do think it could be used to treat anxiety, improve motor skills, and also it can be used to improve problem solving. I mean, some researchers have found that it can help people solve problems that deal with creativity, like a conflict with another person, but not so much like a maths problem. Like, I mean, it's not so good. Like, say if you had an intractable maths problem that you couldn't work out, it doesn't really work for that. But if you have problems in a relationship with somebody, you can use that to kind of work your way through it.
Right. I've found in the past, I'm a bit of a gamer, and sometimes games are kind of like puzzles.
Yeah.
And I've found in the past, going away from a game, leaving it even for a couple of days and coming back, you do it, when you get back, you do it first time. And I think it's because something in the back of your mind is mulling it over the whole time and working that puzzle out.
You see, one of the functions of sleep and dreaming is to work through problems.
Yeah, right.
And this is one of the downsides of insomnia, or, you know, not going through all the different stages of sleep. You don't get to refresh and recharge the batteries. And kind of, you know, because there is something in that. I mean, I was looking into randomly one of these kind of you download way interesting things off Kindle or whatever. Lots of interesting wee things you can get for like £1 or whatever. And one of the wee things I was looking at, it was a thing about creative writing. Right. And one of the bits, and it just goes through all kind of practical advice about how to kind of plan stuff. But one of the things was, it's always a good idea when you've written a piece of fiction or whatever, take a 48-hour break.
Right.
And just don't think about it, don't look at it for 48 hours, and then go back. And that gives you a fresh pair of eyes, and you can have a look, see things that don't work, or say mistakes or whatever that you've made. That's always a good idea to do that. So I suppose it ties in with that, like, you know.
See if it's a load of nonsense.
See if it's a load of nonsense. Now I think there's dangers of lucid dreaming as well, and it may cause certain problems like less sleep quality, because vivid dreams can wake you and make it hard to get back to sleep, and also it's at a certain stage of sleep Like, you need to sort of go into the deep sleep where you don't drown. You know, you need to sort of go in and out through all the stages. And it can also cause confusion, delirium, and hallucinations. And also, if you've got certain mental health condition, it can blur the boundaries between what's real and what's not real.
Okay.
Which could be problematic, you know. Now, there's apparently different techniques that you can use for lucid dreaming. And I'll just have a brief run through some of them here. How to lucid dream. Yeah, there's a thing called reality testing or reality checking. It's a form of mental training where you can train your mind to notice that you're dreaming.
Yeah.
So there's different things you can do to do that. So for reality testing, you follow these steps several times a day, even when you're awake. So you ask yourself, am I dreaming?
Yes.
So if you were sitting here now, middle of the day, wide awake, full of coffee, working away, you stop and you say, am I dreaming? Like, you be doing it now.
Okay.
Am I dreaming? You could be, say, when we were in a well-known coffee shop earlier on, you could take a time out and say, am I dreaming? Is this a dream?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check your environment to confirm whether or not you're dreaming. Notice your own consciousness and how you're engaging with your surroundings. Now, these are some common reality checks you could use. Mirrors. So, I don't know, is there any mirrors in this room? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Right, so whenever you get the chance, like in your bathroom, go to your mirror, check your reflection to see if it looks normal.
Okay.
Solid objects, push your hand against the wall or table.
Yeah.
And see if it goes through. Some people push their fingers into their opposite palm. So you're supposed to do this continually. Well, not continually, but at several points during the day, even when you're awake, you do this.
Right.
Hands, look at your hands. Do they look normal?
Yeah.
Time, if you're dreaming, the time on the clock will constantly change. But if you're awake, the time will barely change. Now, there's an interesting thing about that. I don't know if you experience this. One of my kind of features of my dreams is dial out at the wrong times.
Yeah.
Like, I'll quite often have a dream where I'm dreaming it's winter, but it's like broad daylight and really warm outside, like it's summer. Or else I have a dream where it's the middle of the night, like 3 a.m. or like whatever. That's like broad daylight, you know, like it's the middle of the day.
Right.
That's quite often been a common feature of my dreams.
Yeah.
It's like inappropriate weather and light conditions for the time.
Brilliant.
Breathing. This is a very common one where you're supposed to pinch your nose. So if you want to do that now, maybe pinch your nose and sing if you can breathe. If you can still breathe, you're dreaming. So can you breathe?
Well, breathe through my mouth.
Well, can you breathe through your nose?
No.
Well, you mustn't be dreaming.
Okay.
It's recommended to pick one reality check and do it multiple times a day, and this trains your mind in that sort of way of thinking.
Right. Maybe I'll do that.
I think we should do this, actually.
Maybe we'll.
Now, there's another one called Wake Back to Bed. And it's known as WBTB.
Okay.
So wake back to bed. You could consider this technique.
Yeah.
Okay. Set an alarm for 5 hours after your bedtime. So what time do you normally go to bed at?
About 9. I go to bed very early.
Okay, that is very early. So 9. What's 5? So you'd be setting your alarm for 2 in the morning then. If it's 5 hours. Yeah. Go to sleep as usual. When the alarm goes off, stay up for 30 minutes. Enjoy a quiet activity like reading.
Right, okay.
Like this, I know, like, say investigating for podcasts, it's not easy, it's a discipline. We have to suffer. This is part of the art, you know.
Of course.
And then fall back asleep. When you go back to sleep, you're more likely to lucid dream. So this is an interesting one. You can trigger lucid dreaming by adopting this technique.
Right.
So I will probably be retiring to bed tonight. I would probably say about 12 o'clock. So I would imagine if I set my alarm for 5 a.m. and do it like that, when you're awake, choose any activity that requires full alertness.
I'll be getting up by then.
Well, okay, it's whatever, you know, whatever's appropriate. Like, there's a thing here called mnemonic induction, like the Johnny mnemonic.
Right. Okay.
Mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, aka MILD or mild. And there's a psychologist called LaBerge. He created this technique, and it's based on a behaviour called prospective memory, which involves setting an intention to do something later. I'm just thinking, I should maybe try some of these and do a brief report back for the next podcast.
Yes, certainly. We'll come back to it. And anybody that's out there, email podcast@weirdlyenough.com. Let us know how you got on.
This could be the start of a really interesting new direction for the podcast. A sort of
interactive,
in real time experimentation. It could be good. Right, the mild technique: as you fall asleep, think of a recent dream. So, have you had any interesting dreams recently?
I had a dream about you, actually.
Okay, is it appropriate?
You got into trouble with the police for driving a car you can't drive.
Learning to, hopefully.
Yeah. But you drove a car badly and you got into trouble.
I hope this isn't some sort of premonition. This isn't good.
Borrowed a car from me or something.
I'm sort of wishing I hadn't asked you now, but go on.
The only reason that I remembered it was I knew you were... I got up first thing in the morning and I remembered... we're doing a thing about dreaming, and I've just dreamed about Len.
Well, to be fair, I've mentioned learning to drive recently, so you've obviously got it mixed up in your head.
I'm sure you'll do much better.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. So, right, anyway, so think of that recent dream. Say tonight as you're falling asleep, think of that, okay? Right. Identify a dream sign or something that's irregular or strange in the dream. An example is the ability to fly. So that 1 year, mentioned, what's the irregular or strange thing?
I don't really get irregular things in dreams. That's the weird thing. I must have...
You have very boring dreams, no offense, but I mean,
I would say I have flying dreams or something, but I just forget about them.
I mean, it sounds like your kind of dream is, popping around to the Spar, the lottery, buy a sausage roll, I mean, do you never get dreams where your trousers fall down and stuff like that?
No.
Because I do that all the time.
Maybe I do, I don't know, but maybe I just don't remember them.
Yeah. An example would be the ability to fly. Think about returning to the dream. Acknowledge that the dream sign only happens when you dream. Tell yourself, the next time I dream, I want to remember that I'm dreaming. Recite the phrase in your head. So they say that a combination of reality testing, WBTB and mild works best. There's a couple more ones actually. Here's one. This is the one I've heard of. The Dream Journal.
The Dream Journal.
And it would be an easy one to do. You could keep a dream journal or a dream diary. For best results, log your dreams as soon as you wake up. It's also recommended to read your dream journal often. So what you could do is you could have a little notebook, or else if you're very modern, you can use one of those little note up things on your phone or your tablet or whatever. And when you wake up, just do record it quickly, and then get into the habit of doing that, and then kind of writing the stuff, and that'll kind of get you into the way of thinking. There's a wake initiated lucid dream, WILD, WILD. It happens when you directly enter a dream from waking life.
Okay.
It's said WILD helps your mind stay conscious while your body goes to sleep. I think you were saying you had experienced that recently. Okay. It says you'll need to lay down and relax until you experience a hypnagogic hallucination. That sounds like what you were having, actually.
Yes.
A hallucination that occurs when you're just about to fall asleep.
Okay.
So what you were having was actually a hypnagogic hallucination. It's actually quite interesting. It's apparently it's difficult to learn, but it can be learned. You can actually put yourself into that state.
Yeah,
with discipline and training.
It can kind of happen through, I could kind of meditate myself to that if I wanted to. No, I don't want to.
And briefly to finish up. Now, this is more slightly dodgier ground, and I wouldn't recommend this outside of a clinical study.
Yes.
But drugs. Studies have focused on the effect of several drugs, such as supplements and medicinal plants, on sleeps and dreams. I know there's certain medicinal things you can get from the likes of Holland and Barrett, to help with insomnia and anxiety and stuff like that, like valerian and stuff like that.
Will they make you dream more?
Well, apparently they do affect your dreams. They can make you more, but I suppose it's maybe because, say, if you were sleep deprived for a while and then you start taking this to kind of knock yourself out about it, you might be sort of catching up in your dreams, if that makes any sense. And devices. Now, this is an interesting one. Some masks or headbands that have sounds or lights might bring on a lucid state. Other devices can record or play messages while you're asleep. This is a very interesting one. I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but quite often, because I would often, if I was lying in bed, maybe listen to the wireless or maybe listen to a podcast.
Okay.
And I quite often find if I fall asleep, I will start to dream about what they're talking about.
Yeah.
This happens to me all the time. And often, if I was watching something on YouTube or on the telly, and you fall asleep, you will start to dream whatever they're talking about. That happened to me the other night. I fell asleep, and they're talking about something, and I had this vivid dream where it was the weirdest thing, because it was like a thing on YouTube, some sort of conference about history or something like that, something very kind of dry. But I dreamt that I was at a conference and there was a guy lecturing me.
Yeah.
And then I woke up and it was obviously that was, and again that maybe ties into this idea about the sounds. Put a sound into somebody's ear and they start dreaming about it. Like it happens to me all the time.
Before you go to sleep, you have
to be in that certain kind of stage,
So we're going to go off and experiment with our dreams now. And
this is really fascinating,
to
be honest, I was kind of slightly stoked for topics of, I need to get something for the podcast. Lucid Dream. Right, we'll try that. It's actually very interesting, sort of unusual kind of ground for us. Like,
a lot of food for thought.
Food for
dreams, I think. We'll be back with our weird shorts right after this. I have some extremely distressing news about the big potato. You know the way they have these things all around the world, big something. There's a big rocking chair somewhere in Australia. There's big this and big that. Can you think of any others?
Well, there's a big fish. In
Belfast.
There's all of this. This is this weird thing. I'll not go off on too much of a tangent here, but this kind of weird thing of ugly, slightly distressing.
Yeah.
Public art. Public art. What's the name for it? Not commercial. What's the word?
Community art.
Community art. And it's always these kind of inexplicable things like big fishes.
Yes.
Or else there's that horrible one. It's down near the Europa Bus Centre. And it's a picture of a lady, and it looks like she's got like it's the stuff of nightmares, actually, to be honest. She's got like typewriter sort of, that looks like it's as though she's gone into, you know, one of these things you get in science fiction where you teleport.
Yes. And
it go, you know, like in The Fly, where it goes wrong, and Jeff Goldblum gets mixed in with Fry.
Or something.
I think it's supposed to be the working woman of Ulster kind of way.
There's Fanula with the hula.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that, to be honest.
Well, this is kind of big things that maybe, like a big boot, or this is sort of the commercial side of it.
Yeah.
And what the big potato was, it celebrated this special type. It's called a spunta potato variety. Yeah. It was famous to a local region of Cyprus, and the statue first made the headlines around the world last year when it was installed in this village. Many tourists flocked to see the big spot and have their photos took. With some social media users commenting on the suggestive shape of the spot, because it's a bit shape. But everything was going well until the early hours of New Year's Day, when vandals caused over $4,000 worth of damage to the creation. Investigations are underway by the police at the minute. So not a good start to the season there for the giant spunta potato. And this one, we've been talking about this all week. Michigan University runs a contest every year since 1976 to find words that we should banish. It's like a banned words list. We should leave these words in the past, according to the university students. And the list has just come out for what should be definitely left in 2021. Can you think of any words you'd like to put into, never use again? Words or phrases, I think, would be the thing.
Have you ever read 1984?
Yes.
By George Orwell?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Do you remember there was a thing called the New Speak Dictionary?
Right, okay.
And there's a guy called Sam, and basically his job in the Ministry of whatever it was to basically demolish the English language and reduce it down to the basics.
Yeah.
And he said, the most beautiful thing in life is the destruction of words. I would say the most beautiful thing in life is the destruction of annoying phrases. Yeah. I could go on for hours about this.
Yeah.
Hours and hours.
Are there any ones you'd want to put in?
There's a new, very disturbing one that I've never come across before, and it's both creepy and part of this what I would call the culture of the new normal.
Okay.
which I've railed against for about 2 years.
The new normal, yeah.
Have you ever heard of the term mask hot?
Mask hot? No, what's that? Is that when you're hot behind your mask and you can't breathe?
Right. Well, basically, if you're a young chap or a young lady, and you see another young chap or young lady, and you're trying to determine if they're delicious or not.
Okay.
And it's the idea that, you know, people can look, I believe hot is the term the young people use these days.
With the mask.
With the mask, because it's sort of like it magnifies people's eyes and stuff, and it's also the air of mystery, and you know, it's like you could be mask hot but not actually hot.
Yes.
And it's this is the parlance of the young people, I believe. But I only came across this term this week, but it instantly raised my hackles. It's right up there with classics like New Normal, and there's another. We were talking about that earlier on. There's a thing it seems to be very specific to Twitter, and it seems to be very much in the more political kind of end of UK/Irish Twitter.
Yeah,
where you get very kind of sanctimonious types.
Right, okay.
And they're lecturing people, and they'll do things like they'll go off, you know, when they're like fact checking and debunking, you know, and they'll do a thing where they go checks notes, as though they're sitting there like a bit like this here, like, I think you'll find in 1975 Mr. Watson said the crisps weren't so good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's the most. It raises my blood pressure.
A lot of the ones I hate are already on this list. The use of "wait, what?" to show astonishment is the most popular on the banished list, with "no worries" being another phrase that should be firmly left in 2021. Now, "no worries" been around for a long time.
That came from the Australian soaps,
especially if you're from the Antipodes. Others to make the list: "at the end of the day."
And then that came from football.
Yeah,
that came from Saturday afternoons. You know, when you get these like review of the day, match of the day,
what he's done.
At the end of the day, yeah, that's where that came from.
That being said,
I've never really heard that one that much.
Oh, you hear that a lot. That being said,
never really.
If you ever listen to Jeremy Vine as well, it's people that he interviews that start everything with "so." So an answer to a question, and they go "so."
Yes, there's.
What do you think of the pedestrianisation of Norwich City Centre?
So
research shows that. So
there's a thing, and I don't know if it's really a phrase so much of a way of doing things. For years now, there's a thing that's really annoyed me with. You know when you get popular historians on like the BBC or whatever, and they'll be talking about the Battle of Bosworth or something like that, but they're talking. I was about to swear, but I won't do it now.
Okay.
It's a thing that's aggravated me for a long time. They're talking present tense for some reason.
Right.
And they'll be talking about Richard III in 1485, and they say, so Richard is doing this, and he is doing. It's like, well, no, he hasn't done it for 500 years.
I know what you mean.
That really that grinds my gears. Simon Sharma and all these punters were doing it 20 years ago.
Another thing that I really hate on that kind of Jeremy Vine interview is people that say, you know. So they say, we've all been having to wear masks because of COVID, and you know. It's like a Boris Johnson
It's an interesting one once you get your teeth into this, because there's so many, and there's things that are peculiar to Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that people have, it started a few years ago, because Northern Ireland it's a very contentious place, and even geography and your terminology that you use for geography becomes a battleground. So in order to avoid this, people started using this place when they mean Northern Ireland.
Yes.
This place. And it's like, even that annoys me. Like, it's just like
the thing that annoys. It's like Derry stroke London. Say the one that comes to you,
or whatever you
want to say.
Don't use
pussyfoot around.
It just really irritates,
Other ones on the list: asking for a friend. That's a
that just
that's a big
asking
Reddit. You see that on Reddit?
You see this? It's funny what you should say, because there's certain ones that are unique to certain social media platforms. Yeah. It's like the checks notes thing. I've only ever seen that on Twitter. Whereas asking for a friend as a Reddit thing.
Another one: circle back. Let's circle back.
That's I associate that with like American kind of almost like tag people.
Yeah.
And politicians. Circle back.
Deep dive.
Now, to be fair, I am guilty of using that myself.
Oh my god, yeah.
I think that's kind of an American podcasting thing.
Let's go for a deep dive.
Where it's like, yeah, we're going to do a deep dive into lucid dreaming. I must admit, I am quite guilty of that myself.
New normal. Now, that's one from 2020. That's not from 2021. That's away in the past.
That's away in the past.
You're on mute. That just makes me think of parish council meetings. And supply chain. That's an old one as well. Supply chain issues.
There's one thing I hate, and are we allowed to use names? Well, I don't care. Right?
Doesn't matter. We're on the BBC.
William Crawley, right, is very guilty of us. Where he says this all the time. It's like, let's have a conversation. But it's not really a conversation. It's just him expounding, whatever the BBC thinks at any particular moment of any topic. Like, let's have a conversation about cycle lanes. Or whatever. It could be whatever the topic is. Like,
I'm scared to get one of those smart speakers. Everybody's talking about smart speakers, and the strange thing is on Amazon especially, you get like, you can pick one up for £20. Why are they so cheap? Because they're listening to everything you're doing, and they're building a big database about everything that you're at. It's not just Amazon, but it's all of them. Isn't one of the things that most people are scared of going forward in the future artificial intelligence? The idea that machines will eventually get so clever that they decide to wage war on their human overlords is not the thing that people are worried about. I think viruses are going to kill us all before that anyway, but there you go. You probably think that it's a long way in the future, but you might be shocked by this one. Wait till you hear this. A woman from Minnesota has claimed that when her 10-year-old daughter asked the assistant device to suggest something challenging to do, suggested that she plug in a phone charger about halfway into a wall socket, then touch a penny to the exposed prongs. I couldn't quite believe this was real, so I had to do a bit of looking about, and actually, yes, a spokesperson for Amazon has told the HuffPost that they continue to advance our systems to prevent similar responses in the future. So it did happen, but they're trying to make sure it doesn't happen.
That's
again.
quite sinister, isn't it?
Apparently, Alexa was using a website called ourcommunitynow.com to find challenges. I'm sorry, I've lost my script here. Of course, we don't agree with doing this at home. I just wonder though, is it really a strange coincidence that Alexa really just pick up something online, or should we start being afraid?
It sounds almost like they're trying to experiment to see how stupid humans are.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. What will they do? One of my favourite human beings is Kim Jong-un. Not only did he climb Everest in a suit and dress shoes, that was some. I remember lad. That. It's church shoes. Yeah. He's also the only golfer in history to putt 18 holes in a single game.
That's an impressive achievement.
It is. He should be on the PGA tour.
Did he not invent airplanes as well?
That might have been his predecessor. According to a biography of the North Korean leader published by the state, he also doesn't defecate.
Right, okay, so how does that work?
What a guy. Well, he's got some pretty big boots to fill. His father, Kim Jong-il, is now claimed to have invented the Tex-Mex dish, the burrito. Apparently they're having a booming trade, burritos this is, in Pyongyang these days. And they were first thought up by North Korea's supreme leader, Kim Jong-il. Footage of the president has emerged showing him apparently inventing the snack in a kitchen. Those who escaped the regime talk of food shortages with no places to eat, even for those who do have money. And in the 1990s, bread and butter was satirized by the North Korean regime as being a food loved by traitors of communism. If you had bread and butter, you were a traitor
of communism.
So there you have it. It's not a Mexican thing at all. It was invented by Kim Jong-il.
Well, you learn something new every day.
Go and tell Bojum that. That Bojum place.
Bojum, yes.
Bojum.
Much beloved of young chaps with funny haircuts and shorts. Hipster types, yeah.
And finally, around the world, authorities are going to extraordinary lengths to encourage people to get vaccinated against COVID-19, and the Germans are no exception.
Oh yes, I know about, yeah.
A shepherd has been tasked with getting 700 sheep and goats to form the outline of the shape of a giant syringe.
Right, lovely.
She said in the end it wasn't difficult. All she had to do was lay out pieces of bread in the shape of a syringe and get the animals to gobble them up. Organisers of the woolly event, Hans-Peter Etzold, said the sheep were such a likeable animal that maybe it'll get the message across and get people to get the jab. So there you go. Oh, look at that nice sheep. Oh, I'll get it after all. I was enormously skeptical, but I'll get it now. And in other vaccine-related news, nightclubs are offering free shots, but it's not free shots of tequila. It's a shot of the vaccine. 4,500 people have already got the jab in the first week in nightclubs. What I don't understand is it like during the day they're just opening up and giving people jabs, or
no? It's on your night out.
So you're on your night out. And oh yeah, I'll get one of those.
See, in Germany, I think it depends where you are. Some kind of have restrictions and some don't. I mean, I don't know if I should even mention it on the podcast, but there was in Hamburg, I believe, establishments that provide horizontal refreshment for young gentlemen.
Okay, right.
Were offering the shots.
Right.
Apparently,
that's nice.
I believe that was in Germany and Hamburg and Berlin as well.
All right.
So, but I suppose fair enough.
Don't be ageist.
No. I made a mistake. I think it was Austria. It was Austria. It wasn't Germany. Yeah, it was Austria. Yeah. It was Austria. Yeah. So you got your horizontal refreshment and your jibby job as well.
Brilliant. Well, let's do that here.
Very good. Well, yeah, that's an interesting. I shall maybe contact Stormont on Monday and suggest that.
I think the first part of it's maybe illegal.
You see, that would be the though actually, funnily enough, I saw a thing about that on YouTube, and this is a weird thing. I wonder. I'm assuming it was nurses administering the shots, so they must have. Oh, that's because it was.
Maybe they were just costumes, mate.
Because there was a chap being led off by a lady, but it wasn't like a professional nurses thing. It was
yeah,
very weird. I don't know. I think it was one of these things. As I always say, it raises more questions than it answers. To be honest,
at the start, and they look for volunteers. Basically, they looked for people to just give the jab that had no medical.
That's what it was. It was the young ladies that provide horizontal refreshment. I think they were administering the shots, which I wouldn't be very comfortable about because if I'm not being you'd want somebody who knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
Not just somebody having a go.
You're being very critical here. How do you know they don't know what they're doing? They could be incredibly well trained ladies.
I suppose I am probably being a bit of a gammon.
Give them, give them.
Well, I suppose I'm assuming they're not. I mean, they could be trained medical professionals who are just looking to top up their earnings. So
yeah,
it's more than possible. Never let it be said that all topics are not covered in this podcast.
We're whittering on love. We'll be back again next week. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll talk to you then.
Thanks for listening to Weirdly Enough. Remember to subscribe to get the latest edition as soon as it drops. And don't forget to leave a review. Email us about anything we've discussed or with your own weird tale at podcast@weirdlyenough.com.